I'm Morgan Ingram, 32 years old, an ER nurse and a single mother. 3 weeks ago, at my sister's wedding, in front of 200 guests, she grabbed the microphone and said, "My sister is a single mother, unwanted by anyone." The room laughed. My mother chimed in from her table, "She's a used product." My father covered his mouth to hide his smirk. My 5-year-old son, Ethan, was sitting right beside me, his small hand gripping mine, his eyes wide with confusion as he watched everyone laugh at his mother. But there was one person who didn't laugh, and what he did next changed everything. Before I tell you the rest, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to hear this story. Where are you watching from? What time is it there? Drop a comment and let me know. To understand how things got to that point, I need to start from the beginning. Growing up in our 4-bedroom colonial in Greenwich, Connecticut, I learned early that there were two types of daughters in the Ingram household: the princess and the workhorse. Vivian was the princess. 4 years younger, blonde like our mother, with the kind of effortless charm that made teachers forget about late assignments and boys forget about other girls. From the moment she could walk, she was Daddy's little angel and Mommy's mini-me. Me? I was the responsible one, which in Ingram family code meant I was the one who didn't need attention because I could handle things on my own. When prom came around, Vivian got a $500 Sherry Hill gown, blush pink, hand-beaded, the kind that made other girls gasp when she walked into the venue. When my prom came 2 years earlier, my mother had looked at me over her reading glasses and said, "Morgan, you don't need all that. You're the simple type, it suits you." I wore a dress from the clearance rack at Macy's. $63. I still remember the price because I'd saved my babysitting money to buy it myself. Our bedrooms told the story too. Vivian had the corner room with the balcony overlooking the garden, white furniture, fairy lights strung across the ceiling like something out of a magazine. My room was at the end of the hall, next to the utility closet, furnished with hand-me-downs from our grandmother's estate. I didn't hate Vivian for any of it. How could I? She was just a kid benefiting from a system she didn't create. But I did wonder, sometimes late at night, what I had done wrong. What fundamental flaw existed in me that made my own parents look right through me. I didn't know then that this pattern would follow me all the way to her wedding day. I met Kevin at 24, during my second year as an ER nurse at Hartford General. He was a pharmaceutical sales rep, charming, confident, the kind of man who made you feel like the only person in a crowded room. We married a year later. My parents attended the wedding, but spent most of the reception talking about Vivian's upcoming internship at a prestigious PR firm in Manhattan. "She's going places," my mother kept telling the guests. "Both my girls are doing well, but Vivian, she's something special." At my own wedding reception, the marriage unraveled faster than I could have imagined. Kevin had a gift for making me feel small, questioning my choices, criticizing my appearance, isolating me from friends. By the time I discovered he was sleeping with his regional manager, I was 7 months pregnant and had lost most of my sense of self. The divorce was finalized when Ethan was 14 months old. I was 27, alone, working night shifts while my son slept at a daycare that charged by the hour. My mother's response to the news? A long sigh, followed by, "I always worried you didn't know how to keep a man happy. Vivian would never let this happen to her." My father said nothing. He never did. Vivian texted me once during the whole ordeal. "That sucks. But honestly, you always pick the wrong guys. Maybe try therapy?" No offer to help, no checking in on Ethan, no acknowledgement that I was drowning. I didn't need their pity. I told myself that every night as I heated up instant noodles after a 12-hour shift, Ethan asleep in his crib in our cramped 1-bedroom apartment, I just needed them to stop treating my pain like entertainment. Daniel Mercer entered the picture 2 years before the wedding. Vivian met him at a charity gala, some black tie event benefiting foster children. He was a children's rights attorney, the kind who took pro bono cases for families who couldn't afford representation. handsome in a quiet way, with kind eyes and a habit of actually listening when people spoke. The first time I met him was at a family dinner at my parents' house. Vivian had been dating him for 3 months and wanted to show him off. He shook my hand, noticed Ethan hiding behind my legs, and immediately crouched down to the boy's level. "Hey, buddy, I like your dinosaur shirt. Is that a T-Rex?" Ethan had beamed. No one in my family ever paid him that kind of attention. Throughout the dinner, I caught Daniel watching the family dynamics with a lawyer's observant eye. The way my mother redirected every conversation back to Vivian. The way my father laughed at Vivian's jokes but barely acknowledged mine. The way I automatically cleared the dishes while Vivian remained seated, checking her phone. Later, as I was loading my car, Daniel appeared beside me. "Does your family always treat you like that?" he asked quietly. I was so startled I almost dropped Ethan's diaper bag. "Like what?" "Like you're invisible." I forced a laugh. "That's just how we are. Vivian's the star, I'm the supporting cast." He didn't laugh, just nodded slowly, something unreadable in his expression. "You're a good mother," he said. "Ethan's lucky to have you." Then he walked back inside. I didn't understand why those words made my eyes sting, or why, for weeks afterward, I kept replaying that brief conversation in my head. The wedding invitation arrived in a cream envelope with gold calligraphy, so thick and expensive it felt more like a royal summons than an invitation. "Vivian Marie Ingram and Daniel James Mercer request the pleasure of your company." The venue was the Carlyle, a 5-star hotel in Manhattan, with a ballroom that had hosted senators, celebrities, and at least one minor European royal. 200 guests. Estimated budget, $150,000, funded entirely by my parents. For context, when I got married, my parents contributed exactly $2,000 and complained about it for months afterward. The invitation came with conditions. Vivian called me 2 weeks before the wedding. "Morgan, I need to discuss some things." "Of course, what's up?" "First, please wear something understated. Pastels or neutrals only. I don't want anyone drawing attention away from me." I'd planned to wear a deep green dress I'd been saving for. "Okay, I can do that." "Second," she paused. "Do you really have to bring Ethan? He's 5. He'll probably get fussy and ruin the ceremony." "Vivian, I don't have anyone to watch him. Kevin's not in the picture and—" "Fine," she cut me off. "But keep him quiet, and you'll be at a table in the back so you can take him out quickly if he makes a scene." The morning of the wedding, my mother called. "Morgan, I've spoken with the event coordinator. You and the boy are at table 23, near the service entrance. Don't make a fuss about it. This is Vivian's day, and we can't have any distractions." Distractions. That's what my 5-year-old son was to them. I should have seen it then. The setup, the positioning, the careful orchestration of my humiliation. But I didn't. I just wanted to survive the day. The Carlisle ballroom was breathtaking, soaring ceilings dripping with crystal chandeliers, white roses cascading from every surface, a string quartet playing Vivaldi in the corner. The kind of wedding you see in bridal magazines, the kind that makes guests whisper about how lucky the couple must be. I wore a dove gray cocktail dress I'd found on sale. Modest, forgettable, exactly what Vivian had demanded. Ethan looked adorable in his little navy vest and khakis, his hair neatly combed, clutching my hand as we walked into the overwhelming grandeur. "Mommy, it's so pretty," he whispered, eyes wide. "It is, baby. Let's find our table." Table 23 was exactly where my mother had promised. Tucked in the far corner, half hidden behind a pillar, so close to the kitchen doors, I could hear the catering staff shouting orders. The other guests at our table were distant cousins I'd met maybe twice in my life. No one from my immediate family came to greet us. I watched as my parents made their grand entrance, my mother in champagne Valentino, my father in a perfectly tailored Armani suit. They worked the room like politicians, hugging, laughing, accepting compliments about their beautiful daughter. Singular, daughter. Vivian swept in 30 minutes later in a Vera Wang gown that probably cost more than my annual rent. She was radiant, glowing, every inch the princess she'd always been. Her eyes found me across the room. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of someone who's already won and wants you to know it. On her way to the head table, she stopped at ours. "Morgan, you came." "Of course I came. You're my sister." She glanced at Ethan, then back at me. "Just remember what I said about keeping him quiet." Then she was gone, swallowed by a crowd of admirers. I caught a notification flash across my mother's phone, left carelessly on a nearby table. "Remember the plan?" My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was nothing. The ceremony was beautiful. Vivian cried delicately perfect tears as she exchanged vows with Daniel. My parents beamed from the front row. The guests dabbed at their eyes with monogrammed handkerchiefs. I sat in the back, Ethan on my lap, and tried to feel something other than hollow. During the cocktail hour, the photographer gathered the family for portraits. I started to stand, smoothing down my dress, when my mother appeared with a tight smile. "Just the immediate family for this set, Morgan. Parents of the bride. I'm her sister. We're doing a smaller grouping first, you understand?" I understood. I always understood. Ethan tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, why can't we be in the picture?" "We'll take our own pictures later, sweetheart. Smile for Mommy." I held up my phone and snapped a photo of him, trying to ignore the burning behind my eyes. At the reception, I watched from our distant table as aunts and uncles I'd known my whole life approached the head table to congratulate Vivian and Daniel. Not one of them stopped by to say hello to me. "Morgan, is that you?" Aunt Linda, my mother's sister, paused on her way to the bar. She looked uncomfortable. "I almost didn't see you back here." "The seating chart's creative," I said, forcing lightness into my voice. She glanced toward the head table, then back at me. Something like guilt flickered across her face. "Patricia's always had her preferences, I'm sorry, honey." Before I could respond, she was gone. I noticed Daniel's friend Mike setting up his phone on a small tripod at the edge of the dance floor, angled toward the stage. Probably live streaming for relatives who couldn't attend. I didn't think much of it then. I had no idea that phone would become the most important witness to what happened next. The clinking of silverware against crystal silenced the room. The MC, a polished man in a three-piece suit, stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, the bride would like to say a few words." Applause rippled through the ballroom as Vivian rose from her seat, radiant in the glow of a dozen spotlights. She took the microphone with practiced ease, her Cartier bracelet catching the light. "Thank you all so much for being here," she began, her voice honey-sweet. "This is the happiest day of my life, and I'm so grateful to share it with everyone I love." She smiled at Daniel, who watched her with an expression I couldn't quite read. "First, I want to thank my incredible parents. Mom, Dad, you've given me everything. Your love, your support, your belief in me. I am who I am because of you." My mother pressed a hand to her heart, tears already forming. My father nodded proudly. "And I want to talk about family," Vivian continued, her tone shifting slightly. "About what family really means. About the lessons I've learned from watching everyone." Her eyes swept the room and landed on me. The warmth in her expression cooled. "Especially my sister." Ethan perked up beside me. "Mommy, Aunt Viv is talking about you." "I know, baby. Shh." But something in Vivian's smile made my blood run cold. It wasn't affection. It wasn't gratitude. It was anticipation. "Morgan, could you stand up?" Vivian called out, her amplified voice bouncing off the chandeliers. "I want everyone to see you." 200 faces turned toward our corner table. My legs felt like they were filled with concrete, but I stood. Ethan looked up at me confused. "There she is," Vivian said, her smile widening. My big sister. The one who taught me so many valuable lessons about life. See, my sister Morgan is a single mother. The words hung in the air, sharp and deliberate. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Vivian's smile didn't waver. She got married young, had a baby, and then, well, things didn't work out. She tilted her head in mock sympathy. Her husband left her. Couldn't handle it, I guess. And now she's alone. Scattered nervous laughter from the crowd. I felt my face flush hot. My sister is unwanted, Vivian continued, her voice carrying a theatrical sigh. No man wants her. I mean, can you blame them? She's got baggage now, a kid, bills, that whole mess. More laughter, bolder this time. A few of Vivian's sorority sisters at a nearby table giggled into their champagne. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then, from the head table, my mother's voice rang out clear as a bell. She's a used product. The room erupted, 200 people laughing, my mother laughing, my father covering his mouth, shoulders shaking with barely contained amusement. I looked down at Ethan. His small face was crumpled with confusion, his eyes darting between me and the laughing crowd. Mommy? His voice was tiny, scared. Why is everyone laughing at you? I couldn't answer. My throat had closed completely. I saw the notes in Vivian's hand then. Typed, prepared, rehearsed. This wasn't a spontaneous joke. This was planned, scripted. A coordinated attack disguised as a wedding speech. But you know what? Vivian was saying, riding the wave of laughter. Morgan taught me a valuable lesson. She showed me exactly what not to do with my life. So really, I should thank her. She raised her champagne glass toward me. To Morgan, my cautionary tale. The guests raised their glasses. Some were still laughing. Others looked uncomfortable but said nothing. And my 5-year-old son watched his mother become a punchline. Vivian wasn't finished. You know, growing up, everyone always asked why Morgan and I were so different. She set down her champagne, pacing the stage like a performer hitting her stride. Same parents, same house, same opportunities. But Vivian succeeded, and Morgan, well, she gestured vaguely in my direction. I used to feel bad about it. Poor Morgan, always struggling. Poor Morgan, can't keep a man. Poor Morgan, stuck in that sad little apartment with her sad little life. My mother nodded along, dabbing at her eyes, but they weren't tears of sympathy. They were tears of laughter. But then I realized, Vivian continued, some people are just meant to be warnings, not examples. And my sister? She's the best warning I could ask for. Applause. Actual applause. I felt Ethan's hand tighten around mine. His whole body was trembling. Mommy, I want to go, he whispered, his voice cracking. I know, baby. I know. But my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen, pinned under the weight of 200 judging eyes, my mother's cruel laughter, my father's complicit silence. This was rock bottom, I thought. This was the lowest point. I was wrong. Vivian raised her glass again. Honestly, Mom's right. Morgan is a used product, damaged goods. But hey, she shrugged with theatrical innocence. At least she's here to see how a real success story ends. The laughter swelled, and then movement from the head table. Daniel pushed back his chair. His jaw was tight, his eyes fixed on Ethan's small, shaking form pressed against my side. For a moment, I thought he was leaving, walking out on his own wedding. Instead, he walked directly toward the stage, toward Vivian, toward the microphone. The laughter faltered, then died. No one knew what was about to happen, including me. Daniel moved with purpose, his polished Oxford shoes clicking against the marble floor in the sudden silence. The string quartet had stopped playing. Guests froze mid-sip, mid-laugh, mid-whisper. Vivian's confident smile flickered. Daniel? Baby, what are you? He didn't answer, didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on our table. On Ethan. My son had buried his face against my hip, his small shoulders shaking with silent sobs. He didn't understand why everyone was laughing at his mommy. He just knew it hurt. Daniel saw that, and something in his expression hardened into steel. He reached the stage in 6 strides. Vivian was still holding the microphone, her smile frozen in confusion. "Daniel, sit down, I'm not finished with my—" He took the microphone from her hand. Not grabbed, not snatched. Just calmly, firmly removed it from her grip like confiscating a dangerous object from a child. "Daniel!" Vivian's voice pitched high with alarm. "What are you doing?" The ballroom had gone completely silent. 200 people holding their breath. I saw my mother half rise from her seat, her face cycling through confusion, anger, and fear. Daniel raised the microphone to his lips. "I apologize for the interruption," he said, his voice steady and clear. "But there's something I need to say." He turned to look at me. Really look at me. Not through me, not past me, but directly at me. Then he turned back to face the crowd. "I've spent 2 years watching how this family treats Morgan Ingram. 2 years of dinners where she's ignored. 2 years of holidays where she's excluded. 2 years of watching her be treated as less than nothing by the people who are supposed to love her." Vivian grabbed at his arm. "Daniel, stop, you're embarrassing me." He stepped away from her touch. "No, Vivian, you did that yourself." Daniel's voice carried across the silent ballroom, steady as a courtroom closing argument. "I'm a children's rights attorney. I've dedicated my career to protecting kids from family trauma, from environments that damage them, from adults who should know better." He pointed toward our table, toward Ethan still pressed against my leg, still trembling. "That little boy is 5 years old, 5, and you just made him watch 200 adults laugh at his mother. You called her unwanted. You called her damaged goods. You called her a used product." His voice cracked with barely contained fury. "In front of her child." Silence. Absolute, ringing silence. My mother's face had gone pale. My father stared at his plate. "I've spent my whole life fighting against exactly this kind of cruelty," Daniel continued. "And I cannot, become part of a family that inflicts it." He turned to Vivian. She was frozen, her perfect makeup suddenly garish under the harsh lights, her carefully crafted facade crumbling in real time. "Daniel, please," she whispered, the microphone catching every word. "You're overreacting. It was just a joke." "A joke?" His laugh was hollow. "You planned this. You rehearsed this. You turned your own sister's pain into entertainment." He stepped back from her, creating a visible chasm between them. "I can't marry you, Vivian. I won't." The collective gasp from 200 guests was audible. "And one more thing." Daniel's eyes found Mike's phone, still recording on its tripod. "My cousin Mike has been live streaming this reception for family members in California who couldn't attend. About 50 people have witnessed exactly what kind of family I almost married into." He set the microphone down on the stage with a soft thud. "I'm sorry for the disruption to your evening," he said to the stunned guests. "The bar is still open. Please, enjoy." Then he walked off the stage. The dam broke. "Morgan!" My mother was on her feet, her Valentino gown swirling around her ankles as she stormed toward our table. Her face was twisted with rage, not at Vivian, not at herself, but at me. "What did you do?" she hissed, jabbing a manicured finger in my direction. "What did you say to Daniel? You ruined your sister's wedding." "Mom, I didn't. You've always been jealous of her." My mother's voice rose to a shriek that silenced the tentative murmurs beginning to ripple through the crowd. "You couldn't stand to see her happy, could you? You had to poison Daniel against her." Vivian had collapsed into her chair at the head table, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Her carefully constructed moment of triumph had shattered into a very public nightmare. My father appeared at my mother's side, his expression hard. "What did you tell him, Morgan? Behind our backs. What did you say?" "I didn't tell him anything. I barely spoke to him." "Liar!" Vivian's voice cut through the ballroom. She was standing now, her Vera Wang gown seeming to mock the disaster unfolding around her. "You've been trying to turn him against me since day one. You couldn't let me have one thing, could you? One perfect day." I felt the narrative shifting in real time. The guests who had been laughing minutes ago were now looking at me differently, not with sympathy, but with suspicion. She must have done something. Maybe the sister provoked this. Poor Vivian. I saw it happening. The rewriting of history right before my eyes. In a matter of minutes, I had transformed from victim to villain in the minds of 200 witnesses, and I realized, if I didn't leave right now, this would be my legacy. The jealous sister who destroyed her sibling's wedding. Forever. If you've ever been in a situation where you were blamed for something you didn't do, where people twisted the truth to make you the villain, comment "I understand, so I know I'm not alone in this." And if you want to know what I did next, like this video, that's how you tell me this story is worth finishing. Now, back to that ballroom. I looked down at Ethan. His face was red and blotchy from crying. His small hands were balled into fists against his chest. He was trying so hard to be brave, to understand why the world had suddenly become so loud and angry and scary. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. For 32 years, I had been the one who stayed quiet, the one who kept the peace, the one who absorbed every slight, every insult, every moment of being overlooked, because fighting back wasn't worth the drama. But this wasn't about me anymore. This was about my son watching his mother be torn apart and doing nothing. I stood up, not dramatically, not defiantly, just stood. Smoothed down my gray dress, lifted Ethan into my arms. "I didn't say anything to Daniel," I said, my voice calm and clear. "I didn't need to. He has eyes. He's watched you treat me like garbage for 2 years. And tonight he finally decided he couldn't live with it." My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You're lying," Vivian spat. "You've always been jealous, Morgan. Since we were kids. You can't stand that I'm better than you." I didn't argue, didn't defend myself. What was the point? Instead, I turned and began walking toward the exit. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, shrill with desperation. "Morgan! You come back here and apologize to your sister right now." I didn't turn around. Ethan wrapped his arms around my neck, his wet cheek pressed against mine. "Mommy," he whispered, "are we going home?" "Yes, baby." "Good." A pause. "I don't like it here." "I know, sweetheart." I kissed his forehead as the ballroom doors loomed ahead. "Neither do I." The walk from table 23 to the ballroom exit was approximately 40 feet. It felt like 40 miles. I kept my back straight, my steps measured. Ethan clung to me, his face hidden against my shoulder. Around us, 200 guests sat in stunned silence, watching the drama unfold like a live theater performance they hadn't paid to see. I saw Daniel standing near the doorway. He wasn't fleeing the scene. He was waiting. When I reached him, he stepped forward, blocking the path just long enough to speak. "Morgan." His voice was quiet, meant only for me. "I'm sorry. I should have said something years ago. I should have—" "Don't apologize." I shifted Ethan on my hip. "You just saved my son from watching his mother be humiliated without anyone caring. That's more than anyone in my own family has ever done." He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a business card. Simple white cardstock, professional black text. Daniel Mercer, attorney at law, family and children's rights. "If you ever need anything, legal help, a reference, anything at all, call me. Pro bono. I mean it." I took the card and tucked it into my purse. "Thank you. For Ethan." Behind us, I could hear Vivian's voice rising in hysterics, my mother trying to calm her, my father issuing terse commands to the bewildered wedding planner. I didn't look back. I pushed through the ornate doors into the hotel corridor, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Ethan lifted his head as the noise of the ballroom faded behind us. "Mommy, are you sad?" I thought about the question. Really thought about it. "No, baby, I'm not sad." For the first time in a very long time, I realized I wasn't lying. How about some pancakes when we get home? His face lit up. With chocolate chips? All the chocolate chips you want. By the time I got Ethan bathed, fed, and tucked into bed with his favorite dinosaur, my phone had accumulated 47 missed calls. 31 from my mother, 12 from Vivian, 4 from my father. I scrolled through the text messages while sitting on the edge of my bed, still in my gray dress, still wearing the makeup I'd so carefully applied that morning. Mom, 10:47 p.m. You ruined everything. Call me now. Mom, 10:52 p.m. Vivian is hysterical. Daniel left. This is all your fault. Mom, 11:15 p.m. Don't you dare ignore me. Morgan Elizabeth Ingram. Vivian, 11:23 p.m. I will never forgive you for this. Never. You destroyed my life. Dad, 11:45 p.m. Your mother is very upset. You need to call her. I set the phone face down on my nightstand. Then I saw a message from an unexpected number. Aunt Linda, my mother's younger sister, the one who had approached me at the reception. Aunt Linda, 12:02 a.m. Morgan, I watched the live stream from Mike's phone. Honey, I am so sorry. I had no idea Patricia and Vivian were capable of something like this. I'm ashamed of my own sister right now. Please know that you didn't do anything wrong. I'm here if you need to talk. I read it twice, then a third time. It was the first acknowledgement from anyone in my family, extended or otherwise, that what happened to me was wrong. Not my fault. Not something I provoked or deserved. Wrong. The tears I'd held back all night finally came. Quiet tears, the kind you cry when you're relieved and heartbroken at the same time. Someone had seen me, really seen me. And that single text meant more than 32 years of hoping my own mother would. The screenshots arrived at 8:47 the next morning. Rachel, my best friend since nursing school, had texted at 3 a.m. Don't read anything until you call me. Seriously, I have something you need to see. By the time I woke up, Ethan happily watching cartoons in the living room, there were 17 images waiting in my messages. Rachel had prefaced them with, a mutual friend's daughter is dating one of your cousins. She saw the family group chat. Morgan, they planned this. I opened the first screenshot. It was a group chat titled Ingram Family, No Morgan. A chat I'd been removed from 6 months ago after asking why I wasn't invited to Christmas Eve dinner. The messages were dated 2 weeks before the wedding. Vivian. I've been working on my speech. I'm going to call her out in front of everyone. Make her see what a disappointment she is. Mom, just don't go too far, sweetie. We don't want to seem cruel. Vivian. Mom, she deserves it. She shows up with that kid like she's not ashamed of her life choices. Someone needs to put her in her place. Mom. You're right. She's always been an embarrassment. Just make it funny. People love a good roast. Dad. Just don't mention me in it. Vivian. Trust me, she won't say anything back. She never does. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. They had planned it, orchestrated it. My mother had helped write the speech that called me a used product in front of 200 people. And my father, my quiet, passive father, had known and said nothing. Rachel's final message read, I'm so sorry, Morgan, but you needed to know. It wasn't spontaneous. It was a coordinated attack. She was right. I did need to know, because now I understood. There was nothing left to save. I sat with the screenshots for a long time. Ethan had fallen asleep on the couch, worn out from the chaos of the night before, his small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. I watched him sleep and felt something settle inside me, something clear and cold and final. For 32 years, I had been chasing something that didn't exist. My mother's approval, my father's attention, my sister's respect. I had bent myself into impossible shapes, trying to earn love that was never going to come. I had accepted crumbs and called them enough. I had let them treat me like a placeholder, a supporting character in my own life story. And for what? so they could plan my public humiliation as a wedding gift to themselves? I closed the screenshots and opened a new document on my phone. I typed 2 words. No contact. That was it. No dramatic confrontation, no tearful phone call demanding explanations, no attempt to make them understand the depth of their betrayal. Just nothing. I would stop calling, stop showing up to family events where I was only invited to be ignored, stop hoping that someday, somehow, they would look at me and see someone worth loving. I wasn't going to announce it, wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a scene they could spin into more evidence of my instability or jealousy. I would simply disappear from their lives the way they had always wanted me to. Quietly, completely, permanently. My phone buzzed with another call from my mother. I declined it and blocked the number. Then Vivian's. Blocked. Then my father's. Blocked. I looked at Ethan, still sleeping peacefully, and felt something unfamiliar loosen in my chest. Not anger, not grief, relief. "We're going to be okay, baby," I whispered to him. "I promise." They showed up 3 days later. I was just getting home from work, Ethan chattering happily about the finger painting he'd done at daycare, when I saw them standing on the steps of my apartment building. My mother in a cashmere coat, my father in his usual golf attire, both looking like they'd taken a wrong turn into the wrong neighborhood. "Morgan," my mother's voice was ice, "we need to talk." Ethan's grip tightened on my hand. "Mommy, why is Grandma here?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Go wait inside with Mrs. Patterson, okay? I'll be right there." My elderly neighbor had already appeared in her doorway, drawn by the tension in the hallway. She gave me a knowing look and held out her hand to Ethan. "Come on, honey, I just baked cookies." Once he was safely inside, I turned to face my parents. "You blocked our numbers," my mother said, her voice trembling with outrage. "After what you did to your sister, you blocked us?" "After what I did? You poisoned Daniel against Vivian. You destroyed her wedding. The venue is demanding full payment. The caterers won't refund a dime. Do you have any idea how much money you've cost this family?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. A sharp, bitter sound that made my mother flinch. "I didn't do anything, Mom. Vivian stood up and called me unwanted in front of 200 people. You called me a used product. Daniel made his own decision based on what he witnessed." "It was a joke," my mother threw her hands up. "A harmless joke that you—" "In front of my 5-year-old son." My voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "You humiliated me in front of Ethan. He asked me why everyone was laughing at his mommy." For the first time, something flickered in my mother's eyes, something almost like guilt. But it vanished as quickly as it came. "Vivian is devastated," my mother pressed on, her voice softening into what she probably thought was maternal concern. "Daniel won't return her calls. The wedding photos are ruined. She's talking about therapy, Morgan. Therapy. My baby girl. Then therapy might be exactly what she needs." My mother's face reddened. "How dare you? Mom." I held up a hand. "I'm going to say this once, and then I want you to leave." She fell silent, shock flickering across her features. In 32 years, I had never interrupted her. "I didn't poison Daniel against Vivian. I barely spoke to him. He made his choice because he watched how this family treats me, how you treat me, and decided he couldn't be part of it. That's not—" "I'm not finished." The words came out steady, unflinching. "You planned that speech. I've seen the group chat screenshots. You helped Vivian decide exactly what to say. You knew she was going to humiliate me and you encouraged it." My mother went pale. My father shifted uncomfortably, suddenly fascinated by a scuff mark on the hallway floor. "Vivian is crying?" I continued. "Good. Maybe now she'll understand what it feels like. I've been crying since I was 12 years old, trying to figure out why my own mother looked at me like a disappointment." "Morgan, that's not fair. You called me a used product, Mom. In front of my child. In front of 200 people. And you're standing here asking me to apologize?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "I love you," I said quietly. "I've spent my whole life loving you and hoping you'd love me back. But I can't do this anymore. I won't raise Ethan in an environment where he learns that abuse is acceptable if it comes from family." I stepped toward my door. "Please leave. If you've ever had to set a boundary with someone you loved, even when it broke your heart, comment boundaries. So I know you understand. And if you want to hear what happened next, keep watching, because what I'm about to tell you proves something important. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. Let me take you back to that hallway." My mother's face cycled through a dozen emotions in 3 seconds: disbelief, rage, hurt, calculation, before landing on her weapon of choice: tears. "Morgan." Her voice cracked artfully. "You're going to regret this. When I'm gone someday, you'll wish you'd been a better daughter." The guilt trip, classic Patricia Ingram. A year ago, it would have worked. 6 months ago, it would have made me apologize. Even a week ago, I might have hesitated. But that was before she laughed at her own daughter being called worthless, before she added her own knife to the wound, before I watched my son's face crumble as his grandmother made his mother into a punchline. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'll look back and know that I protected my child from the same damage you did to me." The door to Mrs. Patterson's apartment opened. Ethan peeked out, cookie crumbs on his chin. "Mommy, are you coming?" I smiled at him. A real smile, warm and sure. "Yes, baby, 1 minute." My mother lunged toward him, arms outstretched. "Ethan, sweetheart, come give Grandma a hug." I stepped between them, not aggressively but firmly. "No." The word hung in the air like a slap. "He's my grandson. And he's my son, and I decide who gets access to him." My father finally spoke, his voice gruff with discomfort. "Morgan, your mother is upset. Let's all just calm down and—" "Goodbye, Dad." I took Ethan's hand and guided him toward our apartment door. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. My mother was crying, real tears now, or close enough. My father stood helplessly beside her. "I'm not doing this to punish you," I said. "I'm doing this because I finally understand that I deserve better than what you've given me." Then I closed the door and locked it. The video spread faster than my mother could contain it. Within a week, it had made the rounds through the extended Ingram family: cousins, aunts, uncles, second cousins I'd never met, passed along like evidence in a trial. Aunt Linda called me on a Tuesday evening. "Morgan, I just got off the phone with your Uncle Robert in Sacramento. He saw the live stream. Well, he used words I won't repeat about your mother and Vivian. I didn't ask anyone to share it. You didn't have to. Mike sent it to his mother, who sent it to her bridge club, who sent it to everyone else. Honey, you know how family gossip works." I did. It was the same network that had spread rumors about my divorce, my failure to keep a husband, my status as the family disappointment. Now that network was working in my favor. "Your mother tried to call me yesterday," Aunt Linda continued, "wanted me to help manage the narrative. I told her the narrative managed itself the moment she opened her mouth in front of 200 witnesses and a camera. Despite everything, I felt a small, unexpected spark of satisfaction. How's Vivian?" Aunt Linda hesitated. "Not good. Daniel's officially ended things. His family sent back the engagement gifts with a letter from their lawyer, something about irreconcilable value differences. Professional courtesy wrapped around devastating rejection." "And your mother?" Aunt Linda sighed. "She's been calling everyone, trying to explain that it was just a joke that got out of hand. But people saw the video, Morgan. They heard her. No amount of spin changes what they witnessed with their own eyes." I thought about my mother, desperately dialing relatives, trying to rebuild a reputation she'd destroyed in 30 seconds of gleeful cruelty. "Let her spin," I said quietly. "I'm done explaining myself to people who don't want to understand." Vivian tried damage control 2 weeks after the wedding. She posted a lengthy statement on Facebook, carefully worded, professionally crafted. probably reviewed by a PR friend. I want to address the misunderstanding at my wedding. What was intended as lighthearted family humor was taken out of context by those who don't understand our dynamic. My sister Morgan and I have always had a playful relationship, and I'm heartbroken that a private family moment was twisted into something malicious by outside parties with their own agendas. It continued for 6 paragraphs, never once apologizing, never once acknowledging what she'd actually said. The comments section became a battlefield. Vivian, I've seen the video. There was nothing playful about it. You literally called your sister unwanted, and your mom called her used goods. How is that a misunderstanding? The video is still circulating. We can all see exactly what happened. Girl, this ain't it. Own your mistake. Rachel sent me screenshots of the meltdown, though I'd already muted everything related to my family. She's getting destroyed, Rachel texted. Her coworkers are asking questions. Someone said her boss called a meeting about professional conduct outside the workplace. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. Mostly, I felt tired. A few days later, I heard through Aunt Linda that Daniel's mother had called my mother directly. She said, and I'm quoting here, "I didn't raise my son to marry into a family of bullies. You should be ashamed of yourselves." Mrs. Mercer, a retired family court judge, had seen enough dysfunction in her career to recognize it instantly. Vivian had lost her fiancé, her reputation was crumbling, her job was under scrutiny, and I hadn't done anything. I hadn't needed to. The truth had been enough. Daniel called me 3 weeks after the wedding. I almost didn't answer. The number wasn't saved in my phone, and I'd become wary of unfamiliar callers. But something made me pick up. "Morgan, it's Daniel Mercer." I sat down on my couch, pulling a blanket over my legs. Ethan was asleep in the next room, and the apartment was quiet. "Daniel, hi. I hope I'm not overstepping by calling. I wanted to apologize." "You already apologized. At the hotel." "Not properly." He exhaled, and I heard exhaustion in his voice. "I watched your family treat you like dirt for 2 years. 2 years, Morgan, and I told myself it wasn't my place to say anything, that Vivian would grow out of it, that they were just difficult. You didn't know how bad it was." "I knew enough." His voice hardened with self-recrimination. "I'm a children's rights attorney. I've built my career on recognizing toxic family dynamics. And I stood by and let it happen because I was in love with someone who didn't deserve that love." I didn't know what to say to that. The rawness of his confession left me speechless. "That night," he continued, "when I saw Ethan's face, God, Morgan, that little boy watching his mother be destroyed for entertainment, I couldn't stay silent anymore." "You didn't just stay silent. You ended your own wedding. It was the right thing to do. The only thing." He paused. "I meant what I said about legal help. If you ever need assistance with custody issues, or if your family tries to harass you, anything, I will help. No strings, no charge." "Why?" "Because your son deserves to have someone in his corner, and so do you." I felt tears prick my eyes, but they weren't sad tears. "Thank you, Daniel, for everything." 6 months passed. Strange how life rebuilds itself when you remove the people who kept tearing it down. I received a promotion at work, senior charge nurse, ER department. My supervisor called me into her office on a random Tuesday and said, "Morgan, your patient satisfaction scores are the highest in the unit. You're calm under pressure, you're compassionate, and you're exactly the kind of leader we need. Congratulations." I cried in the bathroom afterward. Happy tears. The kind that sneak up on you when you're finally starting to believe you might be worth something. Ethan started kindergarten in September. He made friends quickly, a chatty little boy named Oliver, and a quiet girl named Sophie who shared his obsession with dinosaurs. His teacher sent home a note after the first month. "Ethan is a joy to have in class. He's kind, curious, and always willing to help others." My apartment was still small, One bedroom, a kitchenette, creaky radiators, but it was ours. I hung Ethan's artwork on every wall, crayon dinosaurs and finger-painted rainbows, and a wobbly portrait labeled Mommy in purple marker. It looked like home. I started therapy. Once a week, 50 minutes, unpacking 32 years of being told I wasn't enough. Dr. Chen, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes, helped me understand that the problem had never been me. You were the scapegoat in a family system that needed someone to blame, she explained during our third session. Your worth was never determined by their inability to see it. I also started dating again. Casually. Carefully. A nurse from the pediatric unit asked me to coffee, then dinner. Nothing serious, but the idea that someone might want to know me, the real me, felt revolutionary. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for permission to be happy. I was just happy. The attempts at contact came in waves. First, a birthday card for Ethan, arriving 2 weeks late with no return address, though I recognized my mother's handwriting. Inside, $100 bill and a note. To our grandson, we miss you. I put the money in Ethan's college savings account and recycled the card. Then a text from an unknown number. Vivian, using a friend's phone. Morgan, we need to talk. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Call me. I didn't call. A few weeks later, a voicemail from my mother, her voice pitched in that particular tone of wounded victimhood she'd perfected over decades. Morgan, this has gone on long enough. Family is family. You can't just cut us out forever. I'm your mother. Don't I deserve a chance to explain? I deleted it without finishing. The hardest one came from my father. He showed up at my workplace, something he'd never done in the 8 years I'd been a nurse. I found him waiting in the lobby, looking uncomfortable and out of place among the worried families and beeping equipment. 5 minutes, he said when I approached. Please. We stepped outside into the gray November afternoon. Your mother is struggling, he said. She cries every day. Vivian won't leave her room. The family Thanksgiving was... He trailed off. Was what, Dad? Empty. I waited. I know what happened wasn't right. The admission seemed to cost him something. But Morgan, your mother loves you in her own way. She doesn't know how to... Dad. I cut him off, gently but firmly. I spent 32 years waiting for Mom to love me in a way that didn't hurt. I can't wait anymore. And I won't let Ethan grow up waiting too. He nodded slowly, something crumbling behind his eyes. I understand, he said quietly. And for the first time, I believed he did. Today, as I record this, it's been 8 months since my sister's wedding. I'm sitting in our little apartment, Ethan asleep in the next room, his nightlight casting dinosaur shadows on the ceiling. Tomorrow is his 6th birthday. I've got a homemade cake in the fridge, chocolate with too much frosting, just the way he likes it, and a second-hand bike waiting in my neighbor's storage unit, wrapped in a bow I tied 3 times to get right. I got my promotion. I'm seeing someone, Michael, the pediatric nurse, who tells me I'm beautiful and means it in a way I've never heard before. I have friends who show up, a therapist who helps me unpack decades of damage, and an aunt who calls every Sunday just to check in, and I have my son. Last week, Ethan brought home a picture from school. It was a family tree assignment, and while most kids drew grandparents and cousins and sprawling networks of relatives, Ethan had drawn just 2 figures. A tall woman with brown hair, a small boy beside her, holding her hand. That's our family, Mommy, he said proudly. Just us. I hung it on the refrigerator, right at eye level. My mother hasn't stopped trying to reach me, neither has Vivian. I get the occasional message through relatives, the rare handwritten letter that goes straight into the trash. I don't hate them. That's the strange part. I spent so long being angry at the favoritism, the cruelty, the 1,000 small cuts of growing up invisible. But somewhere along the way, the anger faded into something quieter. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just peace. I chose myself. I chose my son, and that choice, hard as it was, Saved us both. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd cut off my entire family, I would have laughed. Or cried. Probably both. I grew up believing that family was everything, that blood ties were unbreakable, that love meant enduring whatever treatment you received because that's what daughters do. Good daughters. Loyal daughters. I was wrong. Family should be a safe place. A space where you're celebrated, not tolerated. Where your presence is welcomed, not weaponized. Where your children can grow up knowing they're enough, exactly as they are. My family wasn't that. My family was a performance, and I was always cast as the understudy. Here's what I've learned. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It isn't cold. It isn't abandoning the people who hurt you. It's recognizing, finally clearly, that you deserve better than what you've been given. You don't owe your loyalty to people who don't respect you. Not your mother, not your father, not your sister, not anyone. I used to think staying quiet made me strong. That absorbing every insult, every comparison, every public humiliation somehow proved my worth. Look how much I can take. Look how resilient I am. But silence isn't strength. Not when it's born from fear. Not when it costs you your self-respect. Real strength is walking away. Real strength is choosing yourself. Real strength is looking your mother in the eye and saying, I deserve better than this. Ethan will grow up knowing that his worth isn't determined by how much criticism he can endure. He'll learn that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you get to control. He'll understand that love doesn't look like public mockery or strategic cruelty or jokes designed to wound. That's my legacy. Not the Ingram family name, just a mother who chose her son and herself. For those wondering what happened to everyone else, here's what I know. Vivian started therapy, according to Aunt Linda. Real therapy, with a licensed professional, working through issues that apparently run deeper than anyone realized. I don't know the details, and I don't need to. I hope she finds whatever she's looking for. I hope she becomes someone capable of genuine kindness. But that's not my journey to witness. My mother continues to call me difficult and unforgiving to anyone who will listen. She's rewritten the narrative so thoroughly that some relatives believe the wedding incident was my fault, that I provoked Vivian, that Daniel was always unstable, that the whole thing was blown out of proportion. I don't correct them. The people who matter know the truth. My father sent me a text a few weeks ago, just 3 words. I'm sorry. No explanation, no excuses, no request to reconcile. I read it, sat with it for a long time. Then I put my phone down and went about my day. Maybe someday I'll respond. Maybe I won't. Healing isn't linear and forgiveness isn't a requirement. Aunt Linda has become the family I always needed. She drives down from Hartford every other month to take Ethan to the Children's Museum, loads me up with Tupperware of homemade soup, and never once pressures me to give your mother another chance. Family is who shows up, she told me once, over coffee in my cramped kitchen, not who shares your last name. She was right. Daniel Mercer sent Ethan a dinosaur encyclopedia for his birthday. No note, no strings, just a gift from someone who remembered a scared little boy and wanted to make him smile. Small kindnesses, they add up. They mean more than 200 laughing guests ever could. So that's my story. A wedding that became a funeral, not for a marriage, but for 32 years of trying to earn love that was never coming. A 5-year-old boy who taught his mother that some people are worth fighting for, and some aren't. A choice to walk away, not in defeat, but in victory. I'm not telling you this because I want pity. I stopped needing pity somewhere between the 47th missed call and the first morning I woke up without dreading my phone. I'm telling you this because I know I'm not alone. Some of you watching this have mothers who look through you. Sisters who compete instead of celebrate. Fathers who stay silent when they should speak up. Family gatherings that feel like minefields. Some of you have already walked away. Some of you are still trying to figure out how, and some of you are still hoping, like I did for so long, that if you just try harder, love better, make yourself smaller, eventually they'll see your worth. They won't. Not because you're not worthy, because they can't. And that's not your failure to fix. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if you've ever had to set boundaries with someone you loved, ever had to choose yourself over family expectations, ever wondered if you were strong enough to walk away, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I have more stories to tell, and I think some of them might help you too. Check out the description for another video about setting boundaries with toxic family members. And if you're comfortable, drop a comment. Have you ever had to cut someone off for your own peace? I'd love to hear your stories too. You're not alone in this. None of us are.